Prime Minister Narendra Modi at the Hyderabad House in New Delhi. Prime Minister Narendra Modi welcomed his Vietnamese counterpart with a warm gesture. Both the leaders held bilateral talks at the Hyderabad House in the national capital. Substantive discussions to further energize the India-Vietnam Comprehensive Strategic Partnership topped the agenda. Both the leaders held wide-ranging talks and agreed to further expand the comprehensive strategic partnership between the two countries. Earlier, Prime Minister Narendra Modi received his Vietnamese counterpart at the Rashtrapati Bhavan, where he received a ceremonial welcome at the forecourt of the Rashtrapati Bhavan. That's India's President House. The visiting dignitary also inspected a guard of honor by the combined defense services of the country. So, the visiting dignitary, the Prime Minister of Vietnam, visited Raj Ghat and paid floral tributes to the father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi, in New Delhi earlier in the morning local time. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi held bilateral talks with his Vietnamese counterpart Pham Minh Chinh in New Delhi on Thursday. After the talks, several MOUs were signed between India and Vietnam in the presence of Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Vietnamese Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh at the Hyderabad House in New Delhi. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Vietnamese Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh jointly inaugurated the Army Software Park at the Telecommunications University in Nha Trang, Vietnam. An MOU was also signed between India's public service broadcaster Prasar Bharati and Vietnam's national broadcaster Voice of Vietnam on exchange of radio and television programs in the fields of culture, education, science, entertainment, sports, history, tourism, news as areas of mutual interest subject to contractual and intellectual property laws in force in their respective countries. And now we are joined by Ashok Sajjanhar, a former senior diplomat from New Delhi, on the story. Welcome, sir, to the program. Well, Vietnam is reportedly keen on exploring the possibility of free trade agreement with India. We'll get more inputs from what has been signed just a short while ago. But what gains do you think would likely accrue to the two countries through such a pact, free trade agreement?
Thank you very much, Tanvi, for having me on your show. I think it's a very good forward movement. India already has a free trade agreement with all the 10 ASEAN countries. India also has individual self-standing agreements, free trade agreements with a number of other countries like Singapore, like Thailand, like Malaysia. And Vietnam is a very significant trading partner of India. $15 billion is the bilateral trade. Of course, the potential is much more. We export about $5 to $6 billion and import about $8 to $9 billion of goods from there. But I think in the area of goods, services, investment, both there is great potential and possibility. Both India and Vietnam are rapidly expanding economies, rapidly growing economies. So I think both of them, there are huge complementarities. And I think if there is an FTA that is established, then it would definitely be a win-win proposition. It would be helpful for both the countries. So I'm very glad to know that there is keen interest on the side of the Vietnamese, and also as far as India is concerned. The last point here I would like to make, Tanvi, is that it is not only in the area of economy and trade, but stronger partnership between India and Vietnam also has a great strategic significance, because Vietnam is a very important element of our Act East policy. It's a very significant partner in the Indo-Pacific, and so our areas of cooperation are many. So this will provide further ballast to our strong partnership.
Okay,
Tanvi.
so Vietnam is seeking investment from Indian businesses in infrastructure. In which key areas is there scope for such investments?
The infrastructure in Vietnam is already pretty good, but of course, there are always possibilities, whether it is in the area of roads, rail, also in the area of digital infrastructure, also in the area of social infrastructure, whether it is education, setting up universities, also in the area of health infrastructure. So there are a large number of areas where both the sides can work together. We already have about $2 billion of investment in Vietnam. We have about close to 400 Indian companies which are working there. But again, as I said, since both the countries are rapidly expanding, both the economies are very dynamic, I think there is such a great possibility. India has registered huge successes in the area of public digital infrastructure, as we have been able to see. And I think those who came here for the G20, all the world leaders, or who participated, I think they have been able to see for themselves the achievements of India. So I think, as I mentioned, the potential is huge, and both the countries really need to get down to working on it. It is very good. I think this visit of the Prime Minister is very good. It is the first visit by a Vietnamese Prime Minister in the last decade, over the 10 years. And it is the first visit by a Vietnamese Prime Minister after the comprehensive strategic partnership was signed in 2016. So I think this demonstrates the seriousness of both India and Vietnam to take this relationship to the next level.
Okay, Mr. Sajjanhar, I request you to stay on with me here as I bring my reporter live who's covering the story, Akshay Dongre from New Delhi. Akshay, what do we know about the talks between Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister of Vietnam? We know one agreement between the public service broadcasters of the two countries, Prasar Bharati of India and Voice of Vietnam has been signed. But do we have information of what other agreements have been signed upon?
Well, there have been a range of agreements as far as the two leaders are concerned, and the agreement that has been signed between India and Vietnam, as far as the agreement to which you are referring to is concerned, regarding Prasar Bharati and the Voice of Vietnam, the development of television and radio platforms in both the countries. That is just one part of it. There is an agreement that was signed on agriculture. There is in which both of the countries will exchange technologies and farming methods to improve their yield, use the best practices, share the best practices that both the countries use. And there are other range of agreements that have been signed. But, I was here where Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the Vietnamese Prime Minister were present, and as they pressed that green button to sign the comprehensive partnership deal as well. But one of the things that was standing apart the most was the 5 MOUs that were mentioned by the Vietnamese Prime Minister. In fact, they went on to show that it's not just the maximum capacity of the relation between the two countries, but what Vietnam expects from this relationship is much more. And in fact, much more deeper relations. In fact, he talked about deeper defense cooperation, deeper culture-to-culture ties, people-to-people ties. In fact, he in fact said that tourism should also grow. He also talked about science and technology, semiconductors, AI. He talked about increased defense cooperation. He talked about South China Sea. So it was quite clear from the body language of the two leaders as well, that how close and how warm the relations can be as far as the future is concerned, and what shared challenges and opportunities both Vietnam and India are looking forward to, not just in the South China Sea, but also in the Indian Ocean region, in terms of open and free trade, in terms of other issues that concern both the countries, and other opportunities that both the countries can in fact grab.
Okay.
So that is what became clear as far as this meeting is concerned. And in fact, the Vietnamese Prime Minister has also invited Prime Minister Narendra Modi to visit Vietnam as well,
Okay.
to share the same kind of hospitality that he has witnessed here. Back to
Okay.
you.
Okay, Akshay, thank you very much. So we see a range of topics have been covered in the talks between Prime Minister of Vietnam and the Indian delegation. Coming back to you, Ashok Sajjanharji, well, South China Sea tensions have figured in these talks. So talking of defense cooperation with Vietnam, what scope or what potential do you see in this area?
I see huge potential because I think there is a growing recognition that China is becoming very aggressive in that area. You might also, and your viewers might also recall that when our former president, Pranab Mukherjee, he had visited Vietnam in September of 2014. We had gifted $100 million worth of 4 boats for providing security and safety to Vietnam. This was of course just a beginning. It is much more can be done, both in terms of supplies of equipment, also in terms of greater military exercises, also in terms of greater visits, in terms of greater collaboration through visits of senior officials. We had our naval chief visiting Vietnam very recently. So, and we have also been investing for exploration of oil and minerals in the South China Sea, in the Vietnamese continental shelf. So that's another area where we can work together. And if I could also add, Tanvi,
yes,
that, you know, what was mentioned also, tourism is a very important sector because tourism is also business as well as culture, as well as people-to-people contact. And many people don't know that there was a big Champa dynasty in Vietnam from the 4th to the 14th century for 1,000 years. And there are absolutely phenomenal Shiva temples in the center of Vietnam. My Son is one of them, which is a UNESCO heritage site which was declared in 1999. And I think those are areas, also the area of Buddhism, because it is a Buddhist country. So whether it is utilizing the facilities in Nalanda University or elsewhere, I think increasing tourist exchanges, there are huge potentials, unlimited potentials, and I'm happy that this visit by the Vietnamese Prime Minister is taking place, which I'm sure will give a very strong impetus and boost to bilateral ties.
Yes, to the comprehensive strategic partnership between India and Vietnam. Thank you very much, Ashok Sajjanharji, for joining us and giving your analysis.
Thank you, Tanvi. Always a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.